So, as a person who loves having affairs and scandals in The Sims, I feel like this is the perfect time because one of my Sims is actually getting married very soon, and I wanted to build a wedding venue just for them and just kind of capture the vibe of Tartosa, which is a world that we're building in. Now, I'm literally not joking. All of my Sims that I tend to play with always have scandals, dramas, affairs, left and right, that they don't really get to the point where they can actually get married. They sometimes get engaged, but there are times where I have a heart and I want to feel wholesome and kind and happy and want to have a longevity relationship with one of my Sims. And my Sim, Aspen Marie O'Connor, you have heard me talk about her several different times in different videos. It's one of the current households that I play here on YouTube. Every once in a while, I'll do a current household update of like what her life is like, her relationship with her father, her mother, her fiance, her kids, and just her general job. Because at this point, she recently got engaged to Jack Collins, who used to be her high school like friend and also her real estate agent at one point. Then he quit his job to become a lawyer. It's a whole thing. And I have to say, Jack Collins is literally the best sim I've ever come across to in my entire life, mostly in this playthrough because he was a randomly generated sim through the real estate mod by the Sim Realist. Not thinking I was ever going to actually utilize that sim for anything. I didn't think Aspen was going to have like a high school best friend. I didn't think she was going to buy a new house, but things kind of fell into place with the story that I was creating at the time because Sergio Romeo died a long time ago. She had Winston, he's a child. She was navigating her doctor career, her father, her whole house, her whole life. Just basically everything was falling apart, and she needed someone to kind of help her pick up the pieces of the missing puzzle because she was navigating a lot of things that mentally she did not understand, but also how to like navigate that in the best possible way without ruining more relationships, her child relationship, just everything was just not right. And Jack Collins was like, I'm here for you. I hope all things are good with me being in your life. Because knowing that she had a best friend in high school named Jack Collins, he was the one showed up saying, Hey Aspen, it's me, Jack. I just got this new job as a real estate agent. I'm here to help you with anything you might need. I mean, Aspen was like, Hey, Jack, I need a new house. Living in Newcrest is like not my thing. And she never actually ended up moving out of Newcrest at all. She just ended up buying a new property in Copperdale because eventually at one point Winston was going to live in Copperdale, which he currently lives there now, and he's about to graduate high school very soon, which I cannot wait to like share more about that story because I have a whole other build that I've done. I built a whole university dorm just for him and his friends and things that I wanted to kind of dabble into that. But a couple of years later, Winston's a teenager. Jack and Aspen have two kids now that are officially toddlers. If you watch my last current household update video, I will link that down below so you can kind of get a gist of what was going on. But essentially, it was a birthday party and it was very nice, very sweet, very wild because, I mean, Royce O'Connor, Aspen's father, is like a whole other thing that I just, ooh. I've never like hated a sim this much for like ruining his legacy, his family this badly. And I'm like, how do we go from here? How do we fix Royce to be like the best granddad and the best father in the world? Because if he doesn't fix this, he might not show up at Aspen's wedding at all. And that's deeply concerning. But Aspen, she's grown, she can do what she wants, but ultimately it's up to her if she wants to have her father in her life. And I think at this point, she really doesn't, but wants to for the sake of her kids and knowing that their grandpa is in, their lives for the long haul. Now, personally, Aspen has other people in her life that she can definitely, count upon and be there for her with anything that she might need. And she has a godmother who lives in Newcrest because her mother, Aspen Diane O'Connor, was like, had like a lot of friends around in different places, especially Newcrest. And I felt like with having Aspen, she always dreamed of having a wedding that wasn't like her mother's wedding or her friend's wedding. She always strived to have, the best, but also not to go broke at the same time. Because she is, kind of like a Nepo baby. She is very rich and she has made her own money without using her mother's name in every situation that she's been in. She's always done things by like herself. saying, I'm here to work. She got her career without her mother's help. She got the career because of her degree that she got in. And she's almost at level 10 of her career, which is kind of crazy because she's a doctor. And I've never really fully played with the doctor career since we got Get to Work many years ago, like over 10 years ago. And it just felt repetitive. And even though it is an active career, I like going to work with her actually. She's helping other Sims who are sick, carrying their illnesses, delivering babies. It's a whole thing. And I kind of want to expand even more to that, but I want to finally move on from Gen 1 to Gen 2 because I've been playing Aspen since 2021 and I have this moment where I'll play her for a couple of months and then stop. Play for more months and then stop. It's like a stop and start relationship with me and Aspen in the save file because every time there's a new update, I want to like change her outfits. I want to change her house a little bit. I want to give her a new update of her whole like surrounding area, update some of the lots. So like that's kind of why it takes me so long to do any gameplay video of any kind because I'm like behind the scenes updating a lot of the things in the background. The house itself, the neighborhood itself, no matter what, it's a current household for Aspen, the current household for Finley McCain, the college twins. Like there's so many gameplay things I want to do, but I'm just so nitpicky and like kind of a perfectionist, but I just want to have things where it makes sense for the story, where things are being placed. I'm all about cluttering my builds with a purpose, where things look kind of janked up and crazy, but it's there's a reason why it is. And at some point soon, when Aspen and Jack do get married in Tartosa, I have a plan that I want to bring in like Aspen's old like college friends because I have made several different build videos and I think maybe one or two created some videos. I'm pretty sure. I cannot remember, but I've done a few and I've made a lot of her college friends. And at this point in her life, she's like in her 40s and having the best time of her life. And she kind of misses her old life, mostly her college friends of the life that she used to have when she was dating Sergio Romeo and she was pregnant with Winston and she like had this really great life, lived in her mother's house. Like, it was just a whole thing. And I feel like I want to invite them over for like a little get together before the wedding, kind of like a bachelorette party with a bachelor and bachelorette party, one for Jack and then one for Aspen. Kind of like I have like a little 2 episode type of current household where we just kind of throw parties for both of them, kind of get things together, talk about the old times. Like I have a whole backstory just for all of that. And Aspen has friends in different places in San Sequoia, in Mount Komorabi. She has friends in Del Sol Valley. Like I've built several houses and several Sims that have had the best life. And even like Copperdale, because if you remember in one of my current house update videos, Winston was living in Copperdale on a full ride music scholarship at Copperdale High. And it's more so like an art school where people around the world can come here, apply for a scholarship, and live in Copperdale either at a friend's house or somebody that they like know, or they live on campus, which is nowhere to be seen in Copperdale, but it's kind of like a studying abroad type of school. And Winston had like a family friend living in Copperdale that he could rely on, ask for any questions, things like that. And so on and so forth. Aspen has a friend in Copperdale that is actually one of her college best friends, and I cannot wait to kind of explain a little bit more about them. I'm still trying to figure out if they all still live in their houses because I don't remember. Because sometimes what happens in my game, I don't know if this happens to you, but there are times where I'll load up the game, play around for a little bit in one household, and then all I know, I go to the map view, and then so on and so forth. Susie McGee and Charles McDaniel move out of their house, have 2 kids, and then one sim dies. Like what happened? So I'm gonna have to like go through all of my neighborhoods and make sure I'm cleaning up things that are not supposed to be there, whether it's like sims or houses or whatever before the wedding. And I want to do a little machinima type of thing. I don't know if I'm going to record as a current household update, but I definitely want to do like a full blown machinima of taking Aspen from her bachelorette party to her wedding day. And it might be all in one, and there might be like actual like, gameplay here and there, but I'm gonna set up the scene for so much stuff. So I'm gonna really work hard on definitely like making it happen. All I know to let you know, Aspen is pregnant with her fourth and last child at the moment, and I think she's going to be in labor very soon. And when the wedding happens, she's not gonna be pregnant anymore because she's gonna have the baby. But I feel like it's gonna be, let's say the baby is born, and then after like 5 months, they have the wedding. It's gonna be kind of in like that time frame. In those 5 months, she's had the baby, she's, bond with the baby and all the other stuff, and now it's like moving on to getting married. So 4 kids, one by Sergio Romeo, and his name is Winston Jordan O'Connor. And then we have Angus Daniel O'Connor, who is the newborn baby, and then Leanna Diane O'Connor. So Leanna Diane O'Connor and Angus Daniel O'Connor are the 2 kids between Aspen and Jack Collins. And then as soon enough, this fourth child will be Jack's child as well. So they'll have 3 kids together. And I'm like, ooh. And there's like this whole other thing too with Sergio, because when I played Sergio Romeo with Aspen and the whole house in Newcrest, this was back in 2021 where we didn't really have a lot of packs. And I don't think kits ever actually existed back then, but I do know there was no like my wedding stories, there wasn't any life and death, there wasn't the for rent pack. There wasn't a lot of packs in 2021 at the time I was recording the very first video. And it was actually a sponsored video by EA of like what my top 3 favorite packs were. And it just got me thinking that there are things in this game that I really, really love, and it's family gameplay, like Discovery University, Parenthood, Seasons. Those things is what I gravitate towards a lot because whenever I'm playing The Sims, sure, I love chaos. Sure, I love drama and things, but it always goes down to the core, the family esque gameplay. How can I make my toddlers, my infants, my teenagers, my children, elders a lot more lifelike and like realistic in a way? Because I want to make sure, like, one, my elders have a good, long life when they were first born to where they are now. Because I want to make sure they have like degrees and really cool aspirations that they've completed, skills they've completed, traveling that they've done to Salvadorada or maybe even Batu, which I consider Batu not really a vacation world. It's more so a destination like Disneyland, basically, is how I describe it. And I went to Batu in real life in Florida for my friend Simsy's wedding, and that was very fun. And I will say that wedding was fantastic. There was a whole video about it too, which I will post down below in the description in case you want to watch like the whole beautiful scene of little Simsy and Duck Dan's wedding, because 10 out of 10, wonderful. But when I went to Batu, I was like, this is like an exact replica. I didn't think it was real. I've seen photos, I've seen videos, but I didn't see it in person until back in February. And I consider Batu like Disney, but then you have Silverado and then Granite Falls, and then you have like the other worlds too. But luckily with Snowy Escape, when you have a rental lot, basically in any world, you can vacation in that world because we have the rental property lot type now. So I don't really know where they're gonna have their honeymoon. I don't really know where they're gonna vacation to, but I just have the idea that I want them to be the best that they can be. But nonetheless, I feel like with this property, I built it mainly for Aspen, but luckily for me, I was also building this for my sim Ron Davidson and Easton James. When I did the Sims 25-hour live stream for their birthday party, was very fun, and I actually utilized this venue just like for them as well. I mean, granted, Bob Pancakes was like the star of the show, stealing my cake left and right, but it worked in my favor. I got the wedding done, and it turned out okay. But I will say it was very nice to kind of do all that. But knowing that there's gonna be a 5-month gap between Aspen having her baby and the wedding, I want to also kind of put in that it's kind of like a summer wedding because in the game right now, I believe it is, I think it's fall or winter, one of the two seasons. All I know, it's not summer yet and it's not fall. So I think it's the spring season right now in my game. And I have changed my calendar days from 7 days to, I believe, 28 days. So that way I have a little bit more time to plan out certain events, certain like vacations, certain get-togethers, stayovers, things like that, because it's all evolved like around Winston. Because once the spring season, ends, summer vacation happens, and that's when Winston kind of goes on this whole journey of touring around the world and making it big in the music world. Because essentially what happened, he has this huge mentor that I did introduce recently in a video, that wrote a book with his wife and his kids. And he's like this very famous musician who has toured around the world. And now that we have the businesses and hobbies expansion pack where we can now mentor other Sims in certain skills that we are pretty proficient at, this will help Winston even better with his musical skill of singing, DJ mixing, piano, all that fun stuff. Because eventually, what I want to try and do is kind of get him in good graces with Johnny Zest. Because at this point, I feel like Johnny Zest is like a manager because he's a comedian. And in my mind, he has to be like rich and famous, but like very well known. And I want to make him where he is Winston's manager for like his whole entire music career. Something goes wrong, I don't know. But I want to make sure that Johnny Zest is somewhere in there. And I think at the time of me playing the save file, Johnny Zest is dead, and so is the other Landgraf family, because this save file is ancient. It's almost 6 years old by at this point. But I'm gonna recreate Johnny Zest and make him look like a manager, not a sleazy manager, because that's not what we're doing here with Johnny. Johnny John is not that crazy. He's not Nancy, and he's not Malcolm, and he's not Jeffrey. Those Sims are downright bougie crazy. But Johnny Zest will be a manager for Winston Jordan O'Connor for his music career all the way through. And one day, I hope and hope one day that we'll get bands in The Sims 4, because I can see it in my head that Winston's gonna be this big famous musician going on tour, traveling the world, having a bunch of fans. He's gonna dive deep into the social media career, well, not career, but more like the social media following, and also social bunny and maybe even trendy. I didn't really try that much of trendy when we first got it with high school years, but I kind of want to dabble into it. And I don't know, I just have a lot of ideas for Winston. Like after this wedding, I think I can actually move forward with Winston. Maybe. I don't know. I just gotta find like the right groove, the right time frame to move on from Aspen, because she's like my literal child. I didn't really see her when she was first born, but it feels like I have, because I created her in Create a Sim with, an idea and then going off after that. And I just had so much fun. But I think also too, when you have a household that you deeply care about, and you have your Sims have kids or adopt kids or have science babies, and you see them like their firstborn when they're a literal newborn, seeing them and then growing and seeing them grow up and changing their looks and moving around and changing the hair and clothes. It's just like you feel different about it, like in a good way or a bad way, depending on who you are. But when I see Winston, I literally saw him birth into my game. And that's like a whole other experience that I just cannot, I don't know how to move on from Aspen because she's like my little baby. But then I also like, I want Winston to have the best life too. I don't think I'll ever achieve 10 generations with the O'Connor family ever. I might eventually, depending on how things go, but I just don't know how I can move on. But we'll figure it out. I'll do something. I'll have to make a dramatic storyline to make it a twist to move on to the next gen, and then the one after that and the one after that. But we'll have to see. But nonetheless, I'm going to go and actually go into the game and show you all the build in real time, because I really want you all to see what this venue looks like in Tartosa, especially in like certain daylight and like afternoon hours, especially knowing it's on the top of a hill near the beach and it's just absolutely stunning. But let's go ahead and go into the game. No, honestly, I don't normally build a lot in Tartosa just because I don't do a lot of beach related builds, but I will say this venue has to be my favorite venue I've done in a very long time because where it's sitting, stunning. The views, the ocean, stunning. Why is there a random plane in the ocean? That I'll never understand. But regardless, this venue is like very beautiful, very stunning. It's on a 30 by 30 lot in Tartosa. It's on the upper right hand of the map. It's empty, so you can pretty much build whatever you want up here. But I wanted to have a venue that was not too big, not too small, because especially knowing Aspen, she doesn't want a big old grand wedding. And I feel like she doesn't have a lot of money to spend on a big venue, especially in Tartosa. So I wanted to add in a nice simple wedding arch. We have a bunch of chairs, the wedding aisle, a grand piano, a fountain, and granted, I used a lot of my wedding stories build and buy because I feel like when you're holding a wedding, you want to have like that wedding-esque furniture in your build at least, and it just completes the build even more. I did dabble a lot in debug of adding in like a lot of these short grass pieces that I thought was really cute. I even added in a wishing well because eventually I feel like Aspen might walk up to this well, or Winston or whoever might wish for like another sibling or more money or a happy life, like little things like that. And I'm thinking if Aspen ever invites over her father, Royce might have like a wish to be in his daughter's life and it might go sideways. But we'll have to see in terms of gameplay because this wishing well can go good or bad depending on what happens. It's up to the game to decide. But I really wanted to add in a lot of space for your Sims to kind of do whatever they wanted. I added in like a little dance floor. Of course, I have all the tables, the buffet table, some garden plots that I thought eventually someone might grow a garden here down the line. Especially if like a chef like Bob Pancakes has another wedding one day, he might grow his own produce like for the future and then harvest it here and then like make the goods in the kitchen. Now, this does have like a lot of different spaces. We do have like the bathroom in here with a row of toilets. We do have the photo station, which I would call like your place to take any happy, silly, angry, whatever moment photos you want to take. And I did use the mosquito stuff pack furniture, mostly the camera, and I think also these markers right here. And I did use the backdrop from high school years and then this backdrop from my wedding stories. I just feel like my wedding stories and a couple other packs complement this build very well. And it was very inspired by Monte Vista, mostly from The Sims 3. And I kind of want to build that vineyard for Don Lothario and somebody else in this save file eventually down the line, inspired by Monte Vista from The Sims 3 because I love that world so much. But I wanted to make sure this was like a very party room. So I have a bunch of confetti. I also have a little stereo for some music. And then I also added in this little like pillow because essentially what this is like holding the rings essentially. And I felt it's like a little photo prop. Now over here is basically where the chef or whoever's cooking can do all their things, whether it's making grand meals, cakes, cupcakes, whatever it might be, they can do it in here. They have a double stove because it's a fancy venue in Tartosa. They got a nice decked out fridge. They got their mixer. They've got their dishwasher, 2 sinks, because they fancy, a lot of counter space to do all their cooking, a basic broke down wacky TV for all the telenovelas they want to watch. They have their bar stand over here. They have another bar over here to grab all their drinks. Now you'll see on the inside, there's a bunch of like stains and holes in the wall. The reason being is that this venue was here for a very long time. Here in Tartosa, there's been parties, raves, you name it, there's been a lot of things here. So things got destroyed, things got splattered onto the wall. And so I feel like it just adds to the character of the venue. And even though it looks kind of broken down, it still holds up to being the best venue in Tartosa, at least in my eyes for the story that I'm creating for Aspen. Because when she visits this venue, it's going to be grand and great overall. Now over here is the general hallway. Not much going on here. There's no railing because I felt like you don't really need one in The Sims, but plus it just didn't make sense to add one in at the time. But then back here, you have your grill area in case you want to do some grilling, not on the stove, but back here you can. a little seating. And then over here is like the living room hangout spot. After the wedding, maybe you could transform the space into like a bachelorette, bachelor party room, get together, whatever it really is, you can transform this room to be to what you want. And I used a lot of the Secret Sanctuary kit that we got because at the time I was building this, it was back in January. So we have gotten that new kit that was for Bella Goth and that kit for Don Lothario. And it felt like it just fit the vibe of this venue very, very well. And the bookcases just look so stunning, especially knowing that they have like a little light that's like above in the bookcase. It just looks so good and just illuminates very, very well. And of course, at a wedding venue, I feel like you need a secret sanctuary. So we have a secret sanctuary door that leads to a secret bedroom they can only access through the door. So I also added in a vanity table, a nice double bed, and also a bunch of knickknacks for a wardrobe and an end table with a lot of things around here. But I wanted to capture Bella Goth and Don Lothario, and that was like the mindset that I had for this bedroom and also this area. Kind of essentially basically the Goth household, but at a wedding venue, essentially. Because let's say, for example, the Goth family owns this venue and rents it out to like other people who want to get married. So like their style is in this venue, and that's why there is like red and brown accents throughout the entire build, mostly in here and kind of up here and kind of in here, but mostly in here and there. But there is an upstairs that mainly is just for walking around. I did add in a desk from the Comfy Gamer Kit by Little Simsy, and I wanted to add in all of that stuff up here because I felt like teenagers, kids, whoever, who don't like the boring walking down the aisle, sitting in the chair for hours on end, listening to vows and things like that, wanted to come up here, play video games. So I added in a desk, a little computer, some Polaroids, some Sims games, some magazines, and of course, some knickknacks to add to the wall. But with all that being said, if you do want to download it, it's on the gallery right now under my gallery ID, which is SpringSims. But regardless, as always, I do hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments below, as always, if you've ever had your Sims get married at a wedding venue, or did they elope? I would love to know. But with all that being said, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye!